She was supposed to come home that night, just like every other night. She'd texted her mom that she was on her way, be there in 20. That text was the last anyone ever heard from her. Her phone went silent. Her car never made it down the highway. And in the morning, only the stillness remained. What no one knew then, what the country would learn over the next 13 years, was that she was not the first. She was not even the 10th. She was part of a brutal, calculated pattern that would stretch across nearly a dozen states, leaving heartbreak, confusion, and fear in its wake. From California to North Carolina, from truck stops to rural highways, women, girls, and even a few young men vanished without a trace. Police departments saw isolated disappearances. The press barely noticed. But behind the scenes, one man was moving silently across state lines, meticulous, invisible, and increasingly bold. They would later call him America's most dangerous killer. But for years, he had no name, no fingerprints, no forensics, no witnesses who lived. Just a growing pile of unsolved cases and grieving families who never got answers. In every town he touched, people whispered legends, stories of a man who could become anyone, be anywhere, and vanish without a sound. Mothers stopped letting their daughters drive at night. Cops wondered if they were chasing a ghost. And the FBI's behavioral analysts, the elite few who profile the nation's worst criminals, couldn't even agree if it was one man or many. But it was one man with a dark past, a practiced smile, and an almost supernatural ability to avoid capture. He blended in. He was the guy pumping gas next to you, the customer 2 spots ahead of you in line, the drifter no one noticed until it was too late. He didn't kill for pleasure. He didn't even kill for rage. He killed because he could, because the world wasn't paying attention. Until someone did. It started with a mother who refused to let her daughter's case go cold. Then a highway patrolman with a hunch, a file buried in a basement evidence room, a forgotten gas station surveillance tape. One by one, the puzzle pieces began to surface. And with them, the chilling truth. This wasn't just a killer. This was a pattern that had been allowed to grow, unchecked for over a decade, aided by law enforcement miscommunication, jurisdictional blind spots, and a system never designed to track a killer who refused to stay in one place. This is the story of how it all unraveled, the victims he left behind, the lives he destroyed, the secrets the system tried to forget, and the one call that changed everything. Because monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they smile at you in broad daylight. He was born in a small town in Missouri in 1977, a place where people didn't lock their doors, where neighbors brought casseroles after funerals, and where nobody imagined that evil could grow quietly next door. His name was Aaron Blake. To most, he was just another kid from a broken home. But to those who really watched him, and there were far too few, there was something darker brewing beneath the surface. Aaron's father left when he was 4. His mother, a waitress with untreated bipolar disorder, cycled between violence and neglect. Sometimes she locked Aaron in the basement when she couldn't handle him. Other times, she forgot to feed him for days. Teachers noted he was always hungry, always tired, and increasingly withdrawn. One counselor, in a long-forgotten school report from 3rd grade, described him as disturbingly blank. Another wrote, "Aaron shows no empathy for classmates or animals. Immediate psychological evaluation recommended." That evaluation never came. By age 9, he was torturing animals in secret, neighborhood cats, birds, even the family dog. But when he got caught, his mother simply told the school it was a phase and pulled him out for a week. No one followed up. At 13, Aaron was arrested for trying to set fire to an abandoned shed near his home. A local officer, new on the job, with no training in juvenile psychology, let him go with a warning. "He's just a bored kid," the report read. But Aaron wasn't bored. He was testing boundaries, and the world kept letting him pass. High school offered no intervention, only more failure. Aaron drifted through a fog of discipline referrals and suspensions, each more serious than the last. He was expelled his senior year for threatening a teacher with a box cutter. No one asked why he had it. No one asked what he planned to do with it. The school was just glad to get rid of him. By then, the patterns were clear, to anyone willing to look. He was isolated, emotionally flat, prone to sudden, chilling outbursts. But no mental health professional ever worked with him for more than a single intake session. One psychologist, decades later, would call him a textbook case of antisocial personality disorder in the making, missed at every stage. The system didn't just fail to stop him, it built him. When Aaron left home at 18, he disappeared into America's undercurrent: truck stops, low-income housing, transient jobs, fake names. He became a shadow. No college record, no stable address, no real paper trail. He used charm when it worked, violence when it didn't. He became fluent in invisibility and lethal in silence. It's easy to ask why no one stopped him. But the harder question is this: how many Aarons are still out there, unnoticed in hallways, overlooked in classrooms, growing colder, smarter, and deadlier by the day? Because killers like Aaron aren't born monsters. They're made, slowly, and in plain sight. The first confirmed victim was found in the summer of 1998, though no one knew it at the time. A 23-year-old nursing student named Haley Monroe vanished while driving home from a weekend shift at a hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Her car was discovered neatly parked at a rest stop, doors locked, keys still in the ignition. No signs of struggle, no prints, no clues. Just a note taped to the rearview mirror with 5 typed words: "She shouldn't have trusted me." No one made much of it. Haley's disappearance was classified as a possible runaway. But then, it happened again. 4 months later, 600 miles away in rural Arkansas, another young woman disappeared, a college sophomore named Gina Cruz. Her body was found a week later near a dried-up creek bed. Like Haley's, there were no defensive wounds, no sexual assault. Just that same cryptic note, this time left inside her purse: "She shouldn't have trusted me." By 2001, the message had appeared at 5 separate crime scenes in 4 different states. Always typed, always left in plain sight, always the same sentence. Local departments didn't share case files. Some didn't even log the message in official records. It was treated as coincidence, or worse, not taken seriously at all. But the killer was building a pattern. The victims were always women, ages 19 to 30, often students or part-time workers, often alone, usually at night, near highway exits, rest stops, or small-town gas stations. He targeted the vulnerable, but not at random. Each one had spoken to someone just before they vanished: a mechanic, a clerk, a passerby, who later remembered a man. Tall, well-spoken, polite. Charming, one witness said, like someone you'd trust in an emergency. And that was the key. He wasn't just killing, he was luring, offering help with a flat tire, asking for directions, pretending to be a stranded traveler himself. He used empathy as bait, and when they let their guard down, he struck, quickly, cleanly, without chaos. No blood at the scene, no noise, just absence. And that haunting note: the FBI wouldn't link the cases until 2005. By then, there were at least 14 confirmed victims. Some bodies were never found, only abandoned vehicles, wallets, or shoes left behind like offerings. One case in Colorado involved a woman who vanished from a gas station only 20 minutes after calling her fiancé. She told him, "A nice guy here offered to check my tire. I'll call you back." She never did. Local law enforcement tried, some more than others, but they were unprepared. No centralized database, no shared task force, and limited communication across state lines meant the killer moved freely. Every jurisdiction treated its case like an isolated tragedy. No one connected the dots, and that's exactly how he wanted it. He wasn't fast. He was patient. He waited months between attacks, long enough to let the noise die down, long enough for people to forget. But he never stopped. And with each crime, the message got clearer, not just in his notes, but in his method. He didn't kill for chaos. He killed for control. For nearly a decade, he stayed ahead, a phantom across state lines, his crimes buried in disconnected case files and forgotten cold storage. But what finally brought him into the light wasn't some grand forensic breakthrough or high-tech surveillance. It was something far simpler, a piece of information that had been sitting in plain sight, ignored for years. In 2009, a young police records clerk in Amarillo, Texas, Megan Landry, was digitizing old missing persons reports when she noticed a pattern. Two separate victims from two different counties had both made their last phone calls from the same payphone at a rest stop off Interstate 40. The calls were made exactly 13 months apart, almost to the day. That alone might not have stood out, except that both women had used the same words during their final call. "A guy here is helping me." Megan flagged it for her supervisor, who dismissed it as coincidence. "That stretch of road gets thousands of people a day," he told her. "Don't chase ghosts." But Megan didn't let it go. On her own time, she pulled weather records, vehicle reports, and witness statements tied to both cases. What she found was chilling. Both victims had described the man who approached them as tall, clean-shaven, wearing a gray windbreaker. Both had reportedly gotten into his vehicle, a faded red pickup truck, likely late 90s model, seen by separate gas station attendants, one in Oklahoma and one in Texas. That was the first confirmed description that repeated across state lines. Still, no one listened. Until 2011, when a retired trucker named Bill Harper came forward with a story he'd kept to himself for years. He'd seen something back in 2005, a man matching that exact description at a rest stop in New Mexico, arguing with a young woman near her stalled car. She looked nervous. Harper remembered it clearly because the girl had caught his eye, mouthing the word, "help," when the man wasn't looking. But Harper, unsure and exhausted from a 14-hour haul, kept driving. When he saw Megan's description online, posted anonymously in a Reddit cold case thread, the memory hit him like a punch. He called the FBI tip line the same night. Now they had a witness. Now they had a vehicle. And now, after 13 years of fragmented evidence, they had a direction. What followed was a deep dive into rest stop surveillance archives, fuel station receipts, and long-abandoned call logs. In a box of unreviewed evidence from the 2003 Gina Cruz case, an officer found a smeared partial print, never run through the federal database because the department didn't have access at the time. When they submitted it in 2012, it pinged instantly, Aaron Blake, arrested in 1996 for arson as a juvenile, never followed up. That match cracked the case wide open. The truth was never hidden. It was buried. By overworked officers, bad communication, and a system that failed to connect its own dots. The killer never changed his methods. We just finally started looking in the right places. It ended not with a dramatic standoff or high-speed chase, but with a knock on a motel door just outside Flagstaff, Arizona. On June 17, 2013, after months of surveillance, the FBI and local police surrounded room 214 at the Desert Oak Motor Lodge. Inside, Aaron Blake was alone. He didn't run. He didn't resist. He opened the door with a quiet smile and said, "Took you long enough." Agents found several sets of car keys, 4 burner phones, 2 fake IDs, and a duffel bag containing women's jewelry, phones, and a loaded .22 pistol. But the most damning item was hidden in the side pocket, a typewritten note, 5 words, just like always. "She shouldn't have trusted me." Blake was arrested on multiple outstanding warrants. Initially, he refused to speak. But once extradited to Texas, the pieces began to fall into place. Forensic links were confirmed across 7 states. Surveillance tapes were matched to his face. Old witness descriptions aligned. And under pressure, Blake's former girlfriend came forward, confessing she had once driven him hours across state lines after he claimed to do something stupid again. The trial began in early 2015 in Dallas County. The courtroom was packed on day one, victims' families, reporters, former detectives, and strangers who had followed the case for years. Aaron Blake faced 17 murder charges, with more investigations still open. Cameras weren't allowed in court, but transcripts read like a horror novel. The prosecution painted Blake as a manipulative sociopath who exploited kindness, patience, and trust to target women who were simply trying to get home. They showed maps of his movements, phone tower data, forensic links, and survivor testimony. Jurors sat in silence as mothers read victim impact statements, letters never answered, birthdays never celebrated. But the defense tried a different strategy. They argued Aaron had suffered from undiagnosed trauma, dissociative episodes, and delusional thinking. They blamed his abusive childhood, the failure of schools and the system, and even the media's portrayal of violence. At one point, the defense attorney called Blake a product of our apathy, but the jury wasn't swayed, because the killer's own words said it all. Each typed note was introduced into evidence, a taunt, a trophy, a signature. Every one of them was cold, deliberate, and composed. No plea for help, no sign of remorse, just control. It took the jury less than 4 hours to reach a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Aaron Blake was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. As the sentence was read, he reportedly showed no emotion, no apology, no reaction at all. Outside the courtroom, reporters asked one of the victim's fathers what justice looked like. He said, "It's not justice. It's just the end of the killing." The trial didn't erase what he did. It didn't answer every question. But it finally gave a name to the nightmare. And for the first time in over a decade, the silence felt different. Not terrifying, but finished. The arrest ended the killing, but it didn't end the pain. In the months after Aaron Blake was sentenced, dozens of families came forward with old, unresolved cases. Missing daughters, sisters, and wives who had vanished under circumstances eerily similar to his confirmed victims. Some found closure. Most didn't. The authorities now believe he may have been responsible for as many as 30 deaths over 14 years, but they'll likely never know for certain. In the wake of the trial, several counties quietly closed open cases. The evidence was either gone, degraded, or never collected in the first place. But out of the wreckage, something began to shift. The FBI launched an internal audit of its interstate case-sharing systems. As a result, protocols for cross-jurisdictional homicide patterns were overhauled. A centralized real-time database was created, allowing local agencies to flag similarities between missing persons reports, even across state lines. Law enforcement academies began incorporating elements of Blake's case into their criminal profiling curriculum. The Behavioral Analysis Unit even coined a term based on his method, relational entrapment, describing killers who exploit trust rather than force. It changed policing. It also changed lives. Many families of Blake's victims became advocates, not just for justice, but for reform. Haley Monroe's mother, Denise, co-founded the Missing Women's Initiative, pushing for better coordination between state and local authorities. Gina Cruz's brother became a criminal psychologist. Others spoke quietly in schools, church halls, or survivor support groups. Their pain not gone, but turned toward purpose. Still, the legacy isn't just procedural, it's personal. The fear didn't vanish with Blake's arrest. If anything, it became more real. Because what he revealed was terrifying in its simplicity. Sometimes, danger wears a friendly face. Sometimes, evil drives a pickup truck and asks, "Need help with that?" That knowledge has stayed with people, especially women, across the country. It lingers at roadside rest stops, in dim parking lots, and on late-night drives down quiet highways. Some say it made them more cautious. Others say it made them more afraid. And the victims? They live on, not just in memories, but in legislation, in case studies, in the haunting notes Blake left behind. Every time someone pauses before getting into a stranger's car, every time a dispatcher forwards a tip that might have once been ignored, every time a cold case gets reopened because it felt familiar, that's their legacy. Not one of fear, but of awareness. Aaron Blake may have wanted to control the narrative, to leave behind a string of unsolved puzzles and whispered warnings. But in the end, the truth caught him. The system that once failed to stop him became the thing that finally did. It came late, far too late for many, but it came. And that's what remains. Not justice, not peace, but vigilance. Because monsters don't vanish. but now we know how to look for them.